Good evening, guys, and welcome once again. Don't forget, we got 4 shows tonight, so we are really busy. But I tell you what, when I was younger, I had a lovely dog called Tiny, and Tiny died. And the trouble was, I was having problems, kind of like coping. And anyway, I've got a guest tonight called Carrie. She's been on several times, and she deals with pet bereavement. Hello, Carrie. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. You okay?
Yeah. The trouble is, Carrie, with when
Mm.
people kind of like loses their favorite pet, whatever it is, we talked before on here, you
Mm.
know, it can be really sad time, can it?
Yeah, definitely.
And
Yeah.
how do people kind of like get to reality and cope with that?
Um, it depends on the individual because grief is a very individual thing, and even if you are in the same household and you've all lost the same companion, you've all had a different bond and relationship with that companion animal. So you're all going to be experiencing the loss differently. And people, they express the loss and pain in many different ways, and it can take varying degrees of time before somebody gets back to, I hasten to say normal, but to a point where they can talk about their companion without it being as distressing as it is at the beginning, just after losing them. Um, yeah, it varies from person to person. Everyone reacts very differently. Some people want to talk about them all the time, have photos out and pictures everywhere and
Yeah,
mementos and be very obvious and keep them visible. Others would rather hide photos and their toys and any reminders of their companion. Others, would rather just talk to family and friends. Others would rather talk to somebody like myself, a neutral party. It There's no right or wrong, and it all depends on the person, and whatever brings them comfort and helps them through this.
how long would it take for somebody to get over a loss of a pet?
It varies. It's like how long is a piece of string. There is no timeline. I usually say to people that the the pain doesn't ever go away completely. There's it. I would say it reduces to like a dull ache that we can learn to live with, but the pain itself never really leaves because they've taken a part of us with them, and there's it. But they say people used to say like between 6 to 12 months, and then it could be anywhere up to 2 years before someone starts to not so much get over. I don't think grief is something you ever get over. It's something that
Mm.
you go through, but you still experience from time to time. Um, so I mean, if it's been like a year, 2 years, and you're still feeling, upset, or then that's understandable. It's pretty normal. But I think when you get up to maybe a year, 18 months, and you're still unable to mention them or look at pictures without it becoming quite distressing and painful, then it may be worth speaking to a professional about how you're feeling. But yeah, it varies from person to person, and the circumstances surrounding the loss will impact the time it takes to work through and come to terms with what happened.
Mm. So how do I get over the grief of losing a pet then?
Um, well, it depends on like as I say, it depends on the individual and what you find supportive. And say, like for instance, if somebody was crying, some people want to be held and spoken to. Others, that's the last thing that they want. They want to be left alone. They want to be, just left. Don't touch, don't speak to them. Um, and it's really it's whatever brings you comfort. If you would prefer to you know, it's just talking to family and friends, and not necessarily them saying anything back, but just being heard is sometimes enough for people to get their thoughts together and, you know, start to come to terms with what has happened. Other people decide that they want to try and get through it on their own, and may push the feelings down, thinking if I don't think about it, I can work through it, which then just builds up, and you know, it comes out eventually. Others want to speak to somebody who, like I said, like somebody such as myself, who is a neutral party, who doesn't know them, and they can really spell out everything that's on their mind, and know that, one, they'll be listened to, two, they'll be heard and understood, but three, they'll also receive helpful advice and guidance as to how to, you know, proceed and navigate the feelings.
Yeah, this you know, seniors out there at the moment, older people, and all what they've got is a pet, and you know, pet dog, you know, whatever, cat, or whatever. And the trouble is, do you think it's harder for them because that's what they, you know, when that goes, do you think they think, oh well, I got nothing no more, so my life's gonna end?
Yeah, it can be, because it's the reason for acquiring the pet in the first place impacts the grief and the loss felt as well. So, like I say, if it's literally just them and their companion, you know, when the companion passes for whatever reason, there's not only the having to deal with the physical loss of their best friend and, you know, partner. It's also a reminder that they're on their own, and, you know, that and that's quite hard to, I think, to deal with, on top of the grief of losing your best friend and your companion. So I think it's as hard for anyone, no matter the circumstances, but I do wonder whether it is a bit harder for those who have come to rely on their companion for companionship and as a social icebreaker, or a routine, or a reason for getting up in the mornings. So yeah, the people that the pet was their sole companion may require more longer term support, more intensive support than someone who has, say, a good family and friend network, you know, that they can reach out to.
Yeah. And the trouble is, sometimes when our pet is dying, you
Mm.
know, it's difficult about making the decision and to put a pet to sleep, really, in it as well.
Yeah, it's a very hard decision to make, and it's not something that is ever done lightly, without a lot of thought. It's, you know, and especially if you know that, I think for anybody having to make that decision, it's very difficult. And I think it's also especially difficult when, like I said, you know, they're your sole companion and you're having to make that decision, but you're doing it, it's a very selfless decision to make, because you're doing it for them, not for you, because it would be easy for us to keep them going for our sake, but we make this decision because we know it's what's best for them in the long run. It's
Yeah.
just that we're the ones that have to live with the loss after.
Okay. So the next bit I want to talk about is, you know, kind of like, you know, our pets died and everything, and you know, getting another dog or a cat, you know, or a pet after, you know, after the other pet, you know, we lost. So, what could that be like, or shall we do it straight away, or shall we hold off?
Again, that is a very individual decision, and there is no right or wrong time. You know, for some people, they will go out pretty much straight away and get a new companion. I say, and it's a new companion, it's a new addition to the home. They're never a replacement. You can never replace the one that you've
Yeah, yeah,
lost.
yeah.
Not that you would want to, but I know that for some people, there's this guilt that if they take in a new companion, that they're replacing the one they've lost. And you're not. You're replacing the normality of having a pet in the home, or multiple pets. And all you're doing is introducing a new addition to the home, a new companion. You know, they're not like I said, they're not a replacement. And you know, and there really is no right or wrong time to do it. If you wanted to do it within days of losing a companion, if that's what will help you through it and will bring you comfort and help you through this time, then go for it. You know, it's whatever you feel would help you. Some people decide that in the heat of the moment, they think, I will never have another pet again. I can't go through this. But as the weeks and months pass, they think, do you know what, maybe I am ready to take on another companion. And some people decide never, you know, they may never take on, but they may foster or work at a shelter or dog walk. So they still have the fix of, you know, having an animal in their life, but it isn't permanent, and they can choose to walk away or step into it whenever they feel. And again, and that's absolutely fine. Whatever you feel is right for you is right. There is nobody out there that can tell you you're doing it wrong. You can't. You know, there is no right or wrong to this. It's whatever feels good for you. Is, you know, that's just how it is.
Right. Okay. So, when we decide, when when the pet dies and everything,
Mm.
and we decide to kind of like bury it or cremate it, how will we get to that point where we say, right, does it need to be cremated, buried? Because sometimes it's difficult for us, so isn't it,
Mm.
to decide?
Yeah, it is. It's very hard because at the end of the day, you're trying to decide on like the last resting place or resting, you know, it's something that will be a tribute or a memorial to a loved one. And I suppose you've got to think about your personal circumstances as well. So burial is all well and good if you own the property that you're living in, if you have plenty of land, and if it isn't near any waterways, then, you know, and you have permission, like you own the land, then burial is great, especially if you're not planning on moving, you know, at any point. Although some pet crematoria do offer an exhumation service, where if you had buried your companion and you did want to move and take them with you, they will come and exhume your pet, and, you know, you can take them to your new property. I don't know if a lot of people knew that that was an option, and I don't think every crematoria offers it, but I do believe it is a new service that some are beginning to offer.
Yeah, thanks
Um,
for that. Yeah,
Cremation is a nice. Well, saying it sounds strange to say it's a nice option, but when I say it's a nice option, I mean that you have more control over what happens. You can choose the casket or urn, or there are so many designs, and there's there's a few crematoriums that use these. I think where it's like, I think it's resin, and you can get different shapes. You can have like a dog or a cat shape, or even like a guinea pig or a
yeah,
rabbit,
yeah, yeah.
and you can put the ashes in that. You can have the ashes turned into diamonds, put into resin. There are so many options for cremation that you can memorialize your companion in a way that suits you, and you can have multiple family members with a piece of jewellery with some of the ashes, and you could have a ceremony with them and bury them or scatter them
Yeah,
on
yeah.
a favourite walk. There are so many options with cremation, and
And
also,
also create a legacy, really, isn't it?
yeah, definitely,
Plant a
definitely.
tree or some flowers,
Yeah,
and yeah,
you could, and especially if, say again, if you're planning to move house, you could even. I used to suggest to clients that if they, say, for instance, got like a bamboo pouch with the ashes, they could put it in a large ornamental plant pot, buy a plant or a shrub specific for their companion as a tribute, and then it's portable. They can take it with them and plant it wherever they are. So
yeah,
there's lots of options.
and and when when our pet dies and everything, we can kind of like, to remember them, we can kind of like either sign up with a local dog shelter, help dogs out, or
Mm,
kind of do a little remembrance, or
yeah.
if we, even if we keep a scrapbook of pictures,
Mm,
that's another help
yeah.
too. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I often recommend doing a scrapbook because whilst you're looking at the photos, you're back in that moment, and you can quickly write down what memories spring to mind when you look at that particular photo. And again, with a scrapbook, you can do it any way you want. You can put the photos in any order you want. You can even have some of them blown up onto canvas, or ask somebody to do a painting or a drawing. And like I say, with donating money to an animal charity in the memory of your companion. I think there was, I think it was Tolfa, a Tree of Life in India. I think they were doing you could sponsor a kennel, and you could, and I thought it was a lovely idea. You could have like a little plaque up with the name of, whoever you'd lost, and the donation would go on to help so many other dogs and animals. And it's, like I say, it's a legacy. The memory lives on by doing good in their name, for others.
Does dogs mourn?
I think they have the capacity to. I think all, like from what I've researched, like mammals in general have the capacity to feel loss and miss like a companion. And I do think that because dogs are quite social creatures, I do think that they do mourn to a degree. They obviously miss their companion. Whether it's the same as we feel it, we can't possibly know, because obviously we don't have a dog brain. But I do feel that they do miss, and they are aware of the lack of, their friend. And I think sometimes when dogs are able to witness the body of their companion and smell them, I think they are aware of death and that the companion has gone. But one thing I would say is that if you have multiple dogs and you lose a dog, and one or others are beginning to show signs of depression, or they're off the food, or they're pining, vocalising, any sudden change in behaviour should be checked by a vet first, to rule out any potential medical cause, rather than putting it down to grief. Because it may well be, but it would be better to have any medical cause ruled out first. And if you find that they're well, that they're just missing, I don't mean that as in like they're just missing, but if there's no medical cause and it's, they're missing their companion, then treat them accordingly. Like, give them the extra attention and support that you would want, and treats, and you go through it.
Yeah, that's what Dr. Mary Brett said. She's the director of AKC Family Dogs Program, certified animal behaviorist, and she says about the dogs demonstrate grief in different ways.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, if one dog dies, that could kind of like trigger the other dogs to be, be grieving, because the dog's missing and everything. It's been around and everything. So, and that's what she was trying to say. So, and she says that dogs do mourn, and but in different ways, not like human beings.
Yeah.
So they behave more erratic. That's what she says.
Yeah.
Last couple of questions when I want to ask you. I've been getting I've got some messages of here for you. If it says here, my dog died the other day. I had a collie, and the trouble is, I took it to the SPCA, and they charged me to take it. Is that right? Can they do that?
I can't really speak for the SPCA's policies and protocols. I think you'd be best to speak to them about their policies and explain their charge. I can only imagine that if your dog had already died and you'd given the dog over to them to cremate or what have you, then they may have asked for a charge for cremation fees just to cover. Obviously, as a charity, they may be trying to I don't know, recover some cost in some way. I honestly, I'd be speaking out of turn if I tried to guess why
Oh yeah,
they
sure,
had.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't answer
No,
that.
that's okay. Brian, if you can come back to me and leave me a message on my email and let me know what it's for. When Carrie comes back on again, I will tell her about it. But I don't know, and Carrie doesn't know. So, um,
Yeah.
Brenda wants to know. She feels that how do you know if a pet is dying, especially a dog? I've got um, I've got a Chihuahua
Hmm.
dog, and it keeps on snapping all the time at me,
Right.
and but not breathing well. I've got to the I went to see a vet, and the vet said the dog is dying. I didn't really want to put it down, but I feel at this moment in time it's going through a lot of pain.
Yeah. Um, so this is quite a difficult question because this is something that really only a vet could answer
Yeah,
confidently.
yeah.
Any sudden changes in behaviour, again, like snapping, can be a sign of pain and distress. And breathing, if the breathing's quite quick, it can be, or shallow, it could be signs of pain. Or I think if a vet has already seen the dog and has said that, the prognosis is poor and that they're already dying, then I think it would be worth discussing with them, like palliative care options. If you weren't ready for euthanasia, maybe a palliative care option where the vet would give medications to help keep them comfortable until they
Mm,
passed. But to be honest, I think it depends on like the age of the dog as well and general condition. I think if it's been a while since you've seen the vet, I would definitely go back and have a frank discussion about the possibility of making the decision to let them go. You know, um, again, it's a horrible decision to
it's
have to
difficult, isn't
make.
it?
It's horrible. It's a horrible decision to have to make. But I just feel that it's better to let them go with the help of, like, a vet can help them pass with peace and dignity and
Oh yeah, yeah,
as pain free. And I think for some people they'd rather the pets passed in the sleep or on their own, and some do, but it's not very often that they pass without distress. And I just feel that it may be best to speak to the vet again and just go through your options. And they're really the best people to discuss what the best options are, given your dog's history and presentation. And again, it would be wrong of me to try and say, oh yes, this is what you should do. You know what I mean? I think a vet should be the one to go through your options and guide you and advise you on that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And thank you very much, Kerry. And
You're welcome.
tell everybody what you do and how they can find you.
Okay, yeah. So as you gathered, I'm companion animal bereavement counsellor. So I help people pre and post loss of a companion. So whether you need help coming to terms with making a decision or would like to speak to somebody because you're struggling with the grief afterwards, I'm here to help you and support you. I'm a sympathetic listening ear. I was a veterinary care assistant for like 16 years, so I have a bit of veterinary background. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can either call me on 075 222 02 498 or email me at carrie@animalbereavementcounselling.com. It's a bit of a mouthful. I do apologise. Or if you just go on Google, Carrie Kearns Pet Bereavement, it should pop up and you
Yeah,
can contact me that way.
leave that on crossroads.co UK podcast and the website. And what we will do, we'll pass the message on to Kerry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. Have a good evening. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time once
You're
again.
welcome.
I love
Thanks.
having you on.
Oh, thank
Brilliant.
you. It's nice to be on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a
Okay.
good evening.
All right. Good night. Thanks.